So let's move on to how you could refund and doing some invoice management things. So I'm going to back up here to the dashboard. We're going to let this refresh and go back to a scenario where you'd need to refund a player or do some invoice management. Now, a big question is, how do you even get there? I think that's a question we get in support fairly often, is like, how do I even go find this invoice? And there's a lot of different ways to go find an invoice in LeagueApps. And I'm going to show you 3 of the quickest ones, and there's other ways. First one here is I can click this magnifying glass in the top right and just search for somebody's name. Like I could search for my name. And when I type in my name here, we're actually going to see that I have some invoices here on the right that are unpaid. So that's a quick way to get to those invoices. Another way is you could go into the invoices report under reporting here at the top. And when I go to the invoices report, I can use my filters at the top, including searching by name, to try and find invoices here. This is more, my date range is too restrictive here. That's why I'm not seeing any. But this is a way to see an entire list of invoices for a particular person or member. Another way, which is the way I'm going to show you today, is within a program. So let's say it's like somebody just registered for your spring soccer league. They made a mistake. They're not actually going to be able to make it, and you need to go refund them. Well, if you can go find the program, you can also go quickly find the invoice. So we're going to do what we did before. We're going to go to our spring soccer league. I'm going to click on the number of players. And you're going to see this all over LeagueApps. You're going to see these payment words: unpaid, partial, void, refund, things like that. And clicking on that word will take you straight into someone's invoice. For example, we'll use Brian Test here. And I'm going to click on the word partial, and it's going to take me straight into that person's invoice where we can start to make adjustments. So now that I'm in this person's invoice, I can see a lot of information: how much their balance due is, what the due date is, things like that. And then under actions is where we can start to make our adjustments. So we'll see here, if we look at the invoice items and the transaction history, that they were originally invoiced $100. They were moved to a different team, but there's no change in the amount billed. We'll see 0 there. And then down here in the transaction history, we're going to see that they did pay $75 of this by a stored credit card. A stored credit card was used. This transaction history is very powerful. If you're ever wondering if someone's refund did in fact go through, you can go to their invoice, look in the transaction history, and you'll see this: success. If the refund didn't go through, you would not see this, or you might actually see the words failed in some cases. So if we wanted to issue them a refund for all or a portion of the $75, we have a couple options. One is we could void the invoice. If it was a mistake, and they're not actually going to be signing up for a program, you don't need to use this invoice for anything else. You can void the invoice, which will prevent all further actions happening on this invoice. And it also triggers a full refund back to the person's card. If you wanted to issue a partial refund, this is an important thing to know. They already have $25, or they still have $25 outstanding. So let's say we needed to give them a $50 refund. Now, what LeagueApps is going to try to do is avoid a transaction. Like LeagueApps will actually try to avoid sending money back to their card if they can. And the way it'll do that is it'll first remove the balance due and then issue a refund. So for example, if I wanted to give this person a $25 refund back to their card, and I came here and select issue refund and put in $25, this actually isn't going to refund anything back to that stored card. It's just going to remove the balance due. So that's an important thing for everyone to note. It's not incredibly common that people will have a balance due and then you have to issue them a refund, but it is an important thing to know. Like if you issued this, a good thing to always check is to come down and look in your transaction history. If you issued a refund and you come down to transaction history and it's not listed there, then the refund didn't go through to their card. So that's always a good check. So what we do in this case, if they did need $50 back to their card, is we could either refund $75, which will reduce the amount billed by 25, and then send $50 back to their card. Another thing we could do is under actions, is do change amount billed and reduce the amount by $25 to remove this outstanding balance, and then submit that. You could also leave a note. An important thing to know about these notes is when you're doing an invoice action, your members will see this note here. So you don't want to leave anything too angry, but we could say adjustment for refund, and then click submit, click continue. That'll think for just a second. And now we'll see here, reduction in amount billed. And if I check my transactions, we'll see that no refund has actually gone through yet. If I wanted to now issue the refund, I could certainly come here and do so by clicking issue refund. Now there are a ton more, oh, let's go back to notes for just a second. If you wanted to note, that'll actually show up in your invoice report export. Like I can come to invoices and export all my invoices. You'd want to leave a note right here. These are admin notes. The only people that sees that, or that sees, sorry, the only people that will see these notes will be administrators in your account with access to invoices, these notes here. All right, let's look at a couple other invoice adjustments. And I'm going to come back to this program, go to my list of players, and we're going to look at a different invoice adjustment. Let's specifically look at this unpaid invoice for Kid 1. I'm going to click on unpaid. It'll take me straight there. And now we're going to see kind of what we saw before. There's been a transaction. Actually, I'm looking for a different invoice. Let's go back here. All right, just a moment. All right, we're going to void this invoice and create a new one real quick. So just bear with me just a moment. Okay, we're going to get a new invoice for this person. All right, here we go. Okay, so we got a new unpaid invoice for Kid 1 here. And we're going to look at some other adjustments. So if you do have somebody that has an unpaid invoice, you'll see there's $100 due, there's no transaction history, nothing else going on. There are some other stuff you can do in an invoice. Specifically what I want to show you. I don't know why I'm not seeing this one either. Bear with me for just a moment here, everyone. All right, I figured it out. Thanks everyone for bearing with me. My payment plans that I want to show you don't apply to team players. So ran into my own issue here. So what we're going to do is just bulk move these players back, and then we should be all good. Do not change. Move. Okay, back on track. All right, so when we're in an invoice that's unpaid, specifically that is important, it has to be an unpaid invoice. Under actions, we can do some other things here. We, of course, can change the amount billed. We can add an offline payment. We can void the invoices if it was a mistake. But this is a neat thing here, specifically if your programs do have payment plans. The reason why I'm calling out that it has to be an unpaid invoice is if somebody had already paid something on this, like they paid $50, something like that, then you won't have this option to convert to a payment plan. You also can't convert one invoice that's already on a payment plan to another. So we need an invoice that looks like this that's unpaid. And then what I can do is I can convert this, and then it'll give me an option to choose one of the available installment or payment plans in that program. So I say, okay, I want this one. I'll click yes, convert it. We'll give LeagueApps a moment to think, and then it'll refresh the page. And now we'll see that this member is now on a payment plan instead of just a general invoice with an open balance due. Excellent. All right, so the last thing I want to show you about Invoice is how you can see what the customer would see or what your member would see. So we're actually going to look at this previous invoice that we worked on where we had a lot of stuff going on. We got some moves, we had a reduction in amount billed, we were actually had a payment, and your members can see all this stuff. I mean, it's important for you as organizers to know how to tell your members where to go so they can see this information themselves. So a good way for you to do this is we can actually just go log in as a member. So we're going to go to Brian's member profile here and click login as member. I need to right click and open this in an incognito window. If I just clicked continue, it's going to cause me some issues. So I'm going to open link in incognito window. It's going to log me in here. And on the right, let me zoom in a little bit, it's a little small. We can actually see invoices. So for this family, I could go look at all their invoices. And we have 2 receipts here. So we can look at unpaid open invoices or receipts. And here are 2 of them. Here are these 2 invoices. And if I wanted to see the invoice details, I can do so as a member. So one thing I want to call out for you after I click on this is you'll see all this stuff happening. We'll see this invoice was voided and when. And we can go look at this invoice, for example, and we'll see all the other stuff. Here we'll actually see the move detailed. Here's the note I left when I reduced the amount billed, adjustment for refund. So your members can see all this stuff themselves just by logging into their member portal. And a neat thing that I want to show you is you'll see here up at the top, servecitysport.leagueapps.com. This URL is not unique to this member. You could send out this general invoices link to any of your members to say, hey, if you have a question, just go here. This link is behind a login screen. So they click on it, they're asked to log in, and then they're taken directly to their list of invoices.